UConn held an open practice on Saturday. We're going to break it all down. You're Locked On UConn.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. On YouTube, it's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. A little housekeeping on my side. YouTube support continues to be amazing. I'd love to have all of those subscribers. Also, download the audio version wherever you get your podcasts. It's equally as important for helping the channel and the Locked On UConn audience grow as a whole. So if you can do me two quick favors. First, click that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen. Then head over to Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and hit that follow button. This way, you'll never miss a moment of Locked On UConn. I can't tell you how much that support means to me. It's everything. Giving those reviews, if you're tuning in from your car or, finishing up the show after this, drop us a 5-star review. Good reviews trigger some referrals for people that are potentially interested in more UConn content and don't know where to find us. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As the playoffs wind down, the customers stop. As the playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So first things first, before we have a couple of guests that I'm bringing on today. I was getting messages by multiple people who either went to the open practice or tweeting about it. Good stuff about Jayden Ross. Good stuff about Isaiah Abraham. A little lukewarm on Aidan Mahaney. Really great stuff about Liam McNeeley and how he's going to be difficult to deal with. Stewie, Solo, also looking good. So wanted to have some eyewitnesses come in and talk about it. But before I introduce the first of a couple of guests we're going to have on the show today, I think I want to just caution everyone to say it's amazing that especially those who were able to go and physically go in person, get to see some video of what our team is going to look like here in the next few months before the season starts. And where they are now is not where they're going to be. So I apologize if my throat is a little raspy today. I'm fighting a little bit of a cold or whatever you want to call it. So I'm playing injured today. We're going through it, foot on gas, right, guys? So yeah, I mean, I think to me the biggest takeaway from all of this stuff is we're all just excited fans. I mean, when you think about not being able to watch a team that just won back-to-back national championships and clamoring for that team to come back, we're going to take the littlest morsel of anything and make it a bigger deal than it is. I mean, think about it. I wanted to have people on to talk about it. So I think for me, it's an interesting story. It's an interesting thought process to go through. And we're going to take about a 2-second break. And when you, through the magic of podcasting, when you come back, we will have our first guest on to talk about what he saw at the UConn open practice. All right, through the magic of podcasting, Brian Frederick appears, and we open the show talking about how, open practice, you get a good feel for what's going on today. It doesn't necessarily mean where they're going to be in the future. So you texted me that you had some thoughts. I want to just hear like open-ended, like before I get into specifics, what was your thoughts? What was the atmosphere like for an eyewitness?
Yeah, first, Mark, thanks for having me on. But being at the practice, I think my first immediate takeaway was how the practice was structured.
Okay.
I mean, there was zero downtime. I mean, you talk about, Dan Hurley being in his element as a coach. I mean, the dude didn't stop for the entirety of the practice. I mean, he was wearing a red hoodie and you can see the sweat on his back. I mean, that's him. That's his element. That's where he loves to be. He loves to be in the court coaching the guys, and you can just tell that, that's where his true passion is. It was funny too. At one point during one of the periods, he's on the court and he's feeding the ball in, for the next segment or the next play. but the team manager is supposed to get him the ball from the sideline, and he was late a couple times. You can see just Hurley turn to him and like, dude, what are you doing? Like, hurry up. It's just his interactions, his demeanor is just hilarious. But it's all, in good intentions. I mean, he just brings so much energy. I mean, it was like just nonstop the entire time we were there. I mean, there was no wasted energy. There's no downtime. It's just go for the entirety of the practice. I think they went for about a little over an hour, and like I said, it was nonstop. I mean, they'll run the stairs after a period's over. Like, they broke up with the gray and blue. But you got the managers running, with the guys up the stairs. You got the coaches running up the stairs. I mean, everybody on that court has a job and a role during practice. And to me, as I'm a high school football coach.
Yep.
At Platt High School in Meriden. And to me, like those are the type of things that I pick up and notice right away. And just the way he runs things, it's really incredible.
Let me ask you a question, because you brought it up. Platt football coach. You were a good athlete back in the day. Could you, in your heyday, could you handle a Dan Hurley practice? What do you think? What do you think that would have looked like for you?
Well, I never played basketball like at the organized level.
Yep.
Playing football and baseball, they're just different animals in terms of how practice is structured. I guess, I would like to think I was in decent shape back then. I mean, hopefully I could handle it, but I mean, it would be hard for me just in terms of not having the skill set to keep up in a practice like that.
I like it. Listen, that's a very honest and very very good take on that. I appreciate that. So you texted me that you were. Let me see. I'm going to find the text specifically. That you were excited about the way Jayden Ross looked. Who else? Because you see it on the rundown. Did anyone? I don't even want to say concern is a terrible way to put it, but did anyone you see went, man, not what I thought. Did you find that there was anybody that fall into that?
Probably the one guy that I felt. And again, I haven't really seen him play when he was at St. Mary's, was Aidan Mahaney.
Okay.
I think he was a little underwhelming. But again, I really didn't have an expectation for him. You just kind of what you see and read on social media.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a big guard. He's not tall.
Right.
It's actually a couple weeks ago when I went to the Husky ticket project with Chris Smith at J. Timothy's in Plainville. They were all there. Him and Noel are the two smallest guys in the team, height wise.
Yeah, no. Did you feel as if he was just kind of what bothered you? Like just the size, or was it just his?
Yeah, I mean, Mark. There's so many athletic guys in that court. It's incredible. I mean, before Ross, got going, the first guy that jumped out to me was Abraham. I was like, wow. I was like, I just didn't expect that. So I think sometimes when you have no expectations, and then you see a guy, with that type of athleticism and how he carried himself on the court, I was just really impressed. Just too, because I think all the other guys that have been brought in have been hyped up so much. I think he's kind of flown under the radar a little bit. And I was just blown away just with his athleticism. I mean, he was able, he shot the ball really well. Noel shot the ball really well. He's quick. He's great, very quick defensively. He's moving around out there. Liam, obviously expectations set really high. I wasn't blown away with anything that he did, but again, you kind of take one practice with a grain of salt a little bit.
For sure. Yeah. Well, you talked about the structure of the practice before we move on to the next segment.
Yeah.
When I'm seeing the clips, so take me there. If I'm seeing the clips when Dan Hurley has the ball and he's shouting things out and he throws the ball in play, does he do that randomly? So does he put them in situations where almost anybody can get the ball to start the play?
Yeah.
And then he sets off of that.
He broke it up. So it was like a 4-on-4, 5-on-5 situation on one end. Right. And then he'd flip it over to the other side, kind of inbound the ball from half court to the other group. So whatever they were trying to do offensively or defensively, it kind of progressed as the periods went on. So let's say each period segment was 10 minutes. So the next segment would be, and eventually they got to like a full court type of situation where they were keeping points at the end, and then the losing team would have to run the stairs at the end.
Okay.
But like I said, I mean, Hurley's in the middle of the court coaching through all the periods. You got Luke out there, giving a ton of instruction. You got Tom Moore underneath the hoop. You got Kamani on the other side. You got the other coaches. You got there's more managers, coaches, and adults on the court than there is players. Just the way it flows is just, like I said, there's just no wasted time out there. It's just really incredible the amount of work they get in during a relatively short period of time.
No, it's awesome. All right, we're gonna go to a break here and come back. I want to ask you some future questions about UConn before we let you go today. So give us 1 second here, and we are gonna go to a break. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for any winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up for peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S.-based customers. All right. All right, we're back with Brian Frederick. Brian, so this team, structure-wise, put yourself, you're a coach, based on what you saw. If you had a game tomorrow, who's your starting five?
It's such a good problem to have. What he has there. I think you got to go Haas. Just the guy returning, veteran presence, obviously Alex, Sampson. And then to me could be, you got Liam, you got Stewart. He shot the ball tremendously on Saturday. Ball and Stewart, to me have made huge strides in the offseason. They look great. So I think, a mix of those six guys, and then Noel's going to be in the mix. Jayden Ross. It's just the level of competition on the court is just is incredible.
Do you feel like he's going to do, because a lot of people are, because I don't know this for a fact, and we'll know more. We talk to guys like Joe who are like doing the on the beat and kind of get little nuggets on who the starting five are. Basically, and to me, it doesn't really matter who starts. It matters who gets the important minutes as the season goes on, right? Like someone like Terrace Reed had a death in the family, so he wasn't there. He's going to get a lot of run this year. So my thing is whether, like, especially like with the shooting guard, because I feel like Haas is guaranteed. I feel like Alex is guaranteed. I feel like Sampson is probably a lock too, right? So you have to fill in two spots, right? So you got another wing, or if Alex is your four, you got another wing and a shooting guard. So it really is going to come down to, is it Jay Stu? Is it Liam McNeeley? Is it Solo? Is it potentially Jayden Ross as another shooting guard, or is it Aidan Mahaney? Like, it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
Mahaney. It's
right.
It's just, I think there's so many ways to structure the starting five and how he wants to, use those guys in those minutes. To me, it's like they're like a hockey team. Just like shift after shift, and they're just going to come at you in waves. And whatever.
Do you think he wants to do that style of play? Like, I know he's excited about having this much talent, right? For practice purposes, it's great. It's a great problem to have. It's a great problem for a coach to have. I'm sure you know that. So, do you think he's going to end up doing kind of, that 2012 Kentucky team was like, 5 starters. You know what I mean? It was like in and out. Do you think he's going to do something similar to that, or do you think he's going to find his 8 or 9 guys and kind of stick with it?
Yeah, I would, lean towards the latter there, and he's going to go with his 8, 9, 10 core guys, I would think. That's the way he seemed to do it last year and the year before. But listen, at this point in time, the way Hurley and his coaching staff And whatever they decide to do, we can't really argue it right now.
No, not at all. I think
They're
I think
proven
it's
winners.
yeah, I think it's more just like we're like you getting to go to this very obviously lucky that you're close enough to do that. I think it's amazing that we get these little tidbits like it's like appetizers, right? Like before the main course.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting thing for me because it's one practice and I'm already kind of like super excited about the season based off of one practice at Gamble. That's what's so crazy about this team. Well, thanks for making Locked On UConn your first listen of the day. For your second listen, enjoy Locked On College Football Podcast. Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron with discussions of the upcoming season and ever-changing landscape of college athletics, including conference realignment, the transfer portal, NIL, new college football, expanded playoffs, and more. Locked On College Football is available on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're starting a football podcast here with the Locked On UConn. We're going to do it every Friday starting in 2 weeks or closer to 2 weeks, August 16th. So not this Friday, next Friday. Brian, you are a football coach at Platt. You had a little insight into UConn football. You have one of your players is up there. Tell me about it.
Yeah, one of our players graduated during COVID. So his senior year of COVID, which was 2020. Roberto Salas, he's now a walk-on at UConn. He's an outside linebacker. So after UConn practice, we got a bite to eat. He came down, say hello to us, and then we went up and watched about 20, 30 minutes of UConn's practice. Pretty much just saw special teams, individual periods. They did a little offense. They did a screen segment offensively. And I get to see Roberto just do some outside linebacker drills. So it's just pretty cool.
That's cool.
October 5th, we have one of our other players, Antoine Santiago. He plays middle linebacker for Temple University, and Temple and UConn play October 5th at the Rent. So hopefully that will be a cool experience for the Merritt community, Platt High School. Our coaching staff get up there, be able to watch those two guys hopefully on the field.
Absolutely, man. Well, listen, man, I really appreciate you coming on, and you're a UConn season ticket holder. Known you for years. How many years have I known you? 30 something. We're getting old, man.
You used to beat me pretty good in tennis back in the day.
You didn't have to bring that up. I didn't bring it up. Hey man, it's all good. I love having you on. Really appreciate the perspective, and I'll definitely have you on again as the season comes on. Would love to.
We'll do something in season when I'm at XL or Gamble.
Love it, man. All right. Well, we're gonna let Brian go. Thank you so much. And when we return, we will have Joe Aruda from the Hartford Courant. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games and the sports aren't sporting like I want them to. But FanDuel lets you keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Visit FanDuel.com and start winning. All right. We're bringing in, let's see if I can get him unmuted. Yeah, there's Joe. I promised a couple of guests today to talk about the open practice. We just finished with a season ticket holder, Brian Frederick, who I've known for years from Meriden. Platt football coach has a bunch of players on the UConn. I think 2 guys on the UConn roster for football. So we got a couple of football questions in as well. But Joe, you were live at the open practice. I asked Brian the same question. Like, what were your thoughts? Like initially, like, what just the atmosphere, did it feel like a normal practice, or you could tell it was more performative? I'm just curious from your side.
Yeah, it did really feel like a normal practice would look like. Hurley was having the players run stairs, which that might have been, I don't think it was performative I think they do that normally in normal practices, but it's kind of funny optics to see them doing it during an open practice, just running through the bleachers. But yeah, I was a little bit surprised at how many people showed out. Like, obviously they're back-to-back national champs, but Saturday in August, they announced about 3,200, almost 33. in Storrs, Connecticut.
Yeah.
That was I thought it was higher, but that was impressive. But yeah, I mean that was it was fun to get a glimpse at
Yeah, it's okay.
at what this team could look like.
So tell me about that glimpse. I heard good things about certain players, but I'm not going to name anybody. I want to hear like who jumped out at you right off the bat.
Well, if we're talking right off the bat, from the moment they stepped on the floor, I think Alex Karaban finished the day shooting like 90% from the field. Like that might be an exaggeration. It probably is, but he hit in warmups. I mean, I put out a video and it wasn't even hard to find like a good video. He hit like 7 in a row in the video, but he had already, obviously I was taking the video for a reason because I just watched him hit like 20 in a row before that.
Right.
So his shot, and Hurley's talking about they want him shooting 45%, maybe better, from 3. His chances at, really stepping up his game and becoming an All-American like he wants to seem like they're well on track. But so yeah, he stood out from the get-go. But during the scrimmages, I was pleasantly surprised with Isaiah Abraham. I think he's the most underrated new player that they have coming in, which, obviously they brought in a lot of new guys, but good new guys. But he was impressive. He was jumping up there. He was throwing some dunks down that drew some oohs and ahs. And Jayden Ross was very good as well. He blocked Samson Johnson, which I've never seen anyone do. What else? Yusuf Singari. So I was really looking forward to seeing Terrace Reed. And unfortunately, he couldn't make it. He had a death to his family, so thoughts to the Reed family. But because he wasn't there, we got to see more of Yusuf than we've seen before. And he's taken some strides from where he was last year at this time.
It's great.
Does that mean he's going to be in the rotation? Probably not, because my main point is the depth of this team is ridiculous.
Sure.
But he had some plays where I was like, all right, I was impressed by Yusuf. And then everybody else, was kind of what I expected. Liam obviously was still coming back from the ankle that he hurt on the 4th of July. Who else? Aidan Mahaney, I think he still has some room to sort of pick up some momentum. They're looking for him to sort of get back. He was on a track to really continue to get better after his freshman year at St. Mary's, and he kind of plateaued a little bit. But I think the staff thinks that they can get him on a path to have another great year.
He's my wild card because I think he can be very good. If on an NCAA tournament team, if your first 2 years as a player, you average 14 points a game, both years. I mean, plateau is a great word. He didn't improve on that freshman year, but I mean, he still maintained 13.9 points a game. Not in the greatest conference in the world, but it made the NCAA tournament. They're a round of 32 team. They were a top 25 team last year. So yeah, I mean, like he's a wild card to me because if he can play even close to what he played last year at St. Mary's, they're deadly again. Like they're a wagon. Because from what I've heard and from what you're saying, guys like, Solo is really stepped his game up. I feel like there's just the competition. That's one thing that Brian brought up. I think being a coach, he recognizes that too, where it's like the amount of competition that is going to be had with these players at this position. Because when we talk about the starting lineups, we don't have to today, but who's locked, right? Haas, Alex, Samson. That's it, right? I mean, that's really 3 guys I feel like are locks for a starting 5, and they probably have thoughts about who the other 2 should be. But there's probably 8 guys who are vying for 2 positions. That's a lot.
The thing too is, they have so much flexibility with how they want to build that starting 5 because they have so many of those guys that are in the 6'6" to 6'8" range, those wings that are versatile and can do pretty much everything. Like Isaiah Abraham, the guy, he's so underrated because there's so many people at his position. But Hurley isn't shying away from potentially having a lineup that has 6'8" to 6'6" to 6'8" guys on the floor at once. Like Jalen Stewart, Liam McNeeley could potentially fill those other 2 spots. And that would be quite a lineup too. But yeah, I think they would like to get Aidan, to a point where he can be that mixture of Cam and Tristan that we've been talking about.
What's Dan Hurley's favorite 2 words? Positional versatility. I think I've probably said those 2 words in talking about this potential for this team over the last 2 months. Probably an average of 127 times, maybe a month. We'll see, maybe more. But yeah, I mean, I think that's, as all jokes aside, I think it's there. I asked my previous guest this, and to me, I'm not questioning Dan Hurley because I would never do that. A guy just won back-to-back national championships. I'm more thinking about from the terms of how he structures this lineup. Do you think that he's so superstitious and so like, I am a creature of habit, so I'm going to try to find a rotation of 8 or 9 guys? Or does he potentially go kind of break the mold and say, I got 11 dudes who can play, and I have enough, players that can go and contribute that I can rotate guys in and have a longer leash for some. I'm curious, like, what your thoughts are. I think you know what I'm trying to say is, like, I don't think he wants to rock the boat with what's worked over the last 2 years, but this team seems different than the last 2 teams in terms of the depth 1 through 11.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're absolutely going to sort of work around what they've got and make the best of what they can. I don't think he's stuck in anything. I don't think that's how you win. I think he's kind of the opposite. I think he'll change things, and he's not afraid. I think 2 years ago he had a deeper rotation. It obviously shrunk eventually, but that just was natural. This year, obviously, I think it's going to start with a lot of guys playing, as it should, and then he'll create the rotation from there. But I think it is a group where a lot of guys, because he does feel a responsibility to that sophomore class, to get them involved and get them in games. So I don't think that.
Interesting. Yep.
I don't think that you're going to see those guys just sort of fall to the back and just fall out of it. I think that it's going to start deep, and I think it's going to stay deep. That's my opinion, but I think it'll obviously depend on how they play together and what sort of lineups they can throw out.
Dan has mentioned this in the past about like how they don't have to be the same team as they were last year, because even if they're a little bit if they're a little less, they can still win it all because they were so dominant last year. Being the most efficient offense of the past 25 years and top 5 defense. Do you think they're trying to replace guys in the aggregate? Like, meaning, for example, like Donovan Clingan averaged about 13 points and 7 rebounds. You can replace those numbers with 2 guys. And kind of, so that's my point, is like, do you think they're trying to, this depth kind of shows that they're trying to do this not by individual guys. Like Aidan Mahaney's not going to replace Cam Spencer, but a combo of him and Solo may. You know what I mean? So I'm curious, right. Do you feel like that's where they're going, and maybe that's the plan?
Right. Yeah, I think, there's a lot of guys that have their own unique skill sets, and when they combine together, you can still get some of those similar combinations. Now, I don't think that they're going to be like, all right, Samson, you need to average exactly what Donovan averaged. Like, I don't think that's going to be the case, but him, Samson and Terrace, how much of a combo is that with Donovan and Samson versus maybe throwing Caravan back at the 5 for some games? I think essentially, I think they're just going to sort of mold it to what they've got. And, right now it seems like Caravan, they're counting on to be the main scorer.
Sure.
It seems like that's what it's going to be. And that's what he wants. And that's what, that's what's going to help him get drafted too. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. But then obviously, we don't really know what, we know that Liam McNeeley is going to contribute, but, he could be, national freshman, he could be up there with, some of the best freshmen in the country. So him and Caravan complement each other as well as similar sort of players. I think it's kind of too early to tell exactly how that will all shape out. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of options, which is always a good thing to have at this time.
For sure. I'm curious too. What's your take on Ahmad Noel? I've talked to his dad. His dad was one of my first podcast guests to Sheed Carr. He talked about how we're getting a dog that's from Philly that's going to be out here, can shoot off the ball, can be on the ball, versatile, a winner. Do you get that sense that this kid is going to be, a UConn favorite right from the start?
Yeah, I think those things were on display, at the practice because his jumper was nice. I was impressed by the way that he shot the ball, and he also looked good running the offense and just playing point. So I mean, obviously his body, he's an interesting build, and I think that he'll be a good build for the Big East and for some of these tougher games. So yeah, I think he'll definitely contribute right away.
Yeah, there's some pictures of him where people do the edits and he's like flexing and it's just like, bro, he's a monster. I love it. He's a beast.
Yeah, he's a tank. So I think he'll bring some grit.
I love it. Well, last question. Do you think, because no Terrace, obviously, hope everything's okay with him and his family. You brought up Youssef. I love that Youssef got run. What was your take on kind of the structure of the practice, right? You talked about them running stairs for the losing teams. It felt, not like I said, it not necessarily performative, but I asked Brian this when Dan has the ball and he has that and he kind of like flips it in play. I'm curious about that specific drill. Like, does he just essentially like change things on them, or is it like kind of it does he start the drill like where they have to pick up the offense kind of like mid whatever? Like I'm trying to get an idea just from the videos I saw of like how he starts some of those drills.
Yeah, so he'll start it and then they'll get into actions and reading actions and things like that. And they try to move the ball around a lot and just sort of simulating. And the practice, they did some of that. They did some like 5-on-5, 4-on-4 a lot, some 4-on-3, a lot of some fast breaks. So they really kind of did it all. But I think a lot of it was just getting used to the way that they run offense, which is an action with a lot of other actions and reading all of that and sort of having choice routes and things like that to run. So I think that's what most of it was. And it was pretty interesting to watch, just the way that they moved and the way that they defended themselves, because their offense can confuse, themselves. So the guys that are running it, they, defensively, they don't really always know where to go.
No, it's we appreciate you coming in and giving some perspective. It's amazing how one practice can get the lot of UConn Twitter all jumping about, because it's kind of like an appetizer for the main course. We're clamoring for more. It's like, oh, I want more UConn video. I want more practices out in the open. So pretty cool experience for fans to go see. Locked On College Football is available on the sorry, this is a ad read. So Locked On College Football, thank you for making Locked On UConn your first listen. But if you're looking for something else, check out Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin. He gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron. Can't find the link to college football in the description. You can just search part of Locked On College Football, a Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This has been another episode of Locked On UConn. For Joe Aruda of the Hartford Courant, I'm your host, Mark Zanetto, asking you to stay locked in, stay connected, make sure your toughness meter is always rising, and as always, go Huskies.